Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Here it is, as promised. It's pregame time. Except we're not talking about the Super Bowl. We are talking with Miss America 2002 today, which I am so excited about. And for all of you who are getting on this afternoon to take a listen and have a look at what 20 plus years of pageant friendship and sisterhood looks like, boy, are you in for a treat. So I can't wait to bring Katie on with me here in just a moment. But before we do, I'm going to be linking some information to an event that she has coming up next weekend. Listen, if you live in the Pacific Northwest and you are able to make your way to Beaverton next Saturday, Katie is providing a one-woman show, one night only, in Beaverton at the Reser Center for the Performing Arts. I'm going. I would not miss this. She's also got an album that's coming out, and I'm just so excited to support her in this creative endeavor. Now, we all know as pageant women and as performers, what a challenge it can be to command a stage. Katie's going to command a stage for an entire show on her own. And you know what she's talking about? She's talking about her year as Miss America. And it's called Bring My Crown, a great show. She's singing music from Broadway that helps her through creative process to express all of the things, all of the feelings, all of the emotions and experiences while she tells story at the same time. I cannot wait to see the show live and in person. Tickets are available at thereser.org, and there are still seats open, so grab your tickets and plan to make your way down to Beaverton, Oregon next Saturday, February 17th. The show's at 7:30 p.m. and I can't wait. I know a lot of folks from our Washington pageant family who are headed down, and it's just going to be a big pageant family reunion, as well as all of those people who love Katie Harman for the incredible Miss America that she was and is and continues to be in terms of being a pageant sister and a role model for women around the country. So I'm going to bring her on with me now so that we can chat a little bit more about this creative production that she has put together and catch up, because you know what? It's been a minute since we've seen each other, and we are going to have just a great conversation together today. I'm so glad that you just click the button to bring Katie on, and she should be popping on here momentarily. So let's give her a wave when she comes online. There she is. Hello, love.
Hello. How are you?
Oh my goodness, I'm well. I'm so excited to see you. Look at you and your beautiful headband and your red. You're feeling the Valentine's vibes already, I can tell.
This is not for Taylor's boyfriend. This is Galentine's. Like you and I meeting together pre-game, we're gonna call it Galentine's.
I love that. I love that. I brought my red cup with hearts today, so as well. Yep, I'm feeling. We're on the same page, sister, as usual.
As per usual. That's exactly right. And you know what else I brought?
Tell me. The crown. Oh, look at this! You brought it!
And as those who know that it has been living in this sandwich baggie. Yes. This is the bikini, by the way. This is the patriotic Band-Aid. Yes. It has been living in this sandwich baggie for 20 years, Breann. 20 years.
I know. You know what? I can't believe that you still have it. So you have to tell this story, because I just thought this was the funniest thing when I heard it for the first time. You talked about your mom titling this bikini, which I think is so funny, because girlfriend, you rocked that bikini. Oh. I mean, I'm just saying, pictures are still available. Fabulous swimsuit figure, fabulous look on stage. I mean, and those back in those days, deciding on your swimsuit, deciding on the fabric, the styling, and you come out in this red metallic. I mean, it's a killer suit. Hold it up again, like the color.
Oh my God, this is crazy. It's Well, okay, so here's the story about this. By the way, you rocked yours, girl.
Oh, you're
Oh
sweet.
my goodness. There's so much that we can say about this bikini, but first of all, I got to point out this because I know you've
Yep.
got it too. All of our pageant wardrobe is labeled with our state. That's what we had to do.
Yes.
Yes, look at
Yes.
this. This is like something that a luchador would wear. Like that's what akin to it. I think that's probably the fabric.
Yes, yes, that kind of thing. I love,
Like
love,
wrestling.
love.
I'm ready to
Okay.
be a wrestler next. But yes, the story of this crazy swimsuit
Yes, Kelly.
is that I actually had nothing to do with the choosing of this swimsuit. All credit goes to Dana Phillips, my executive director and longtime 40-year pageant veteran and executive director for the Miss Oregon program. And for many years, she would bring Miss Oregon to Los Angeles to choose her Miss
Yes.
America wardrobe. And in fact, you did the same.
Yes. We got to
You,
shop together.
that's right. And Miss California too.
Yes, yes.
So we met up with Miss California. It was just a really cool way for us to get into the pageant spirit.
It was.
And it was such a gift. It really was a complete gift because our directors really knew what we were gonna look best in. And they were also helping to guide us, kind of navigate us through this very unusual situation, right? There's no real way to prepare for Miss America when you're in college. Let's just say this. It was
Yes.
not part of a syllabus. We now know the syllabus, you and I, but when you're a young person and you're pursuing the system and you are newly crowned, freshly crowned, it's all so overwhelming.
Yes.
So we go to
And
LA.
we didn't have as much time.
That's right.
So pageant season
That's
would
right.
wrap up the first part of July,
Yeah.
and we were in Atlantic City the first part of September.
That's right.
I mean, there was zero prep time. Yeah. Yeah.
It was so fast. It was so fast. So I'm wide-eyed. We're in Los Angeles. We're doing all these meetings, and Dana, who was a former stylist for Nordstrom, had a great eye,
Yes.
a really great eye. And she happened upon this swimsuit shop called Turtle Beach, and they had made swimsuits for movies. Thus the fabric. Yes. So they kind of knew what was going to show up well under stage lights and what was going to work well with various color tones and skin tones and things like that. And so Dana was just shoving all these bikinis over to me. And I, Breann, the first time I ever wore a bikini was my second year of competition in pageants for Miss Portland. And it was a former Miss Oregon's bikini.
Oh.
So Beth McShane, who is now the current executive director for Oregon, I borrowed her swimsuit. I borrowed half of the wardrobe that I had when I competed.
Yes.
So for those who feel like you have to go to LA and get a wardrobe, no, absolutely not. It was most of everything I wore was
and your
was
evening
borrowed.
gown as well. I love your evening gown
Yeah.
story. The gown that you won Miss America in did not cost even $1,000. It didn't cost even $500. It didn't cost even $250.
Nope.
You found that dress for what price?
$102. Off
And
the
you
rack.
packed it up and wore it
Yes.
with all of the glamour
my
and
gosh.
all of the grace. Yes. Yes.
It's crazy though. It's crazy. Again, that was something that I had purchased for a breast cancer event long before I ever became Miss Oregon. I think I was Miss Portland at that time, but I walked into Pioneer Place in downtown Portland into the BCBG store, and I just loved this dress, and it was on sale, and so I brought it with me to Miss Oregon as a backup gown. Literally, not even for competition. I wore a completely different competition gown for Miss Oregon, but Dana had me try on everything that I brought with me. And when I stepped out in that jersey knit gown with a little gold piece, the most simple thing that you could ever imagine, she was like, that's the one. So fast forward then that next week, we're at Turtle Beach. She's shoving all of these swimsuits to me. And I was super modest and, I wanted to follow all the rules. And at that time, do you remember there was a 2.5 inch or 2 inch minimum to the bikini
The
side.
band. Yes. Yes. On the side.
Girl, do we want to measure? I mean, all these years later, this is not 2 inches.
Skippy little thing.
So I was like, Dana, that is really small. That is not going to cut the mustard. They're going to fire me. They're going to kick me out of competition. And she gives like this little wink and she's like, it's going to be fine.
It'll be fine.
The purpose for this, and I learned a good lesson from this. She's like, you have a long torso and short legs. And this is going to help to make your legs look longer. So she worked with the owner of the swimsuit shop to get the fit just right. And obviously it's quite padded as well. I mean, which of ours is not? Maybe Kelly Goddard from Florida was beautifully like naturally endowed, but the rest of us.
So much.
I like when I see the perfect swimsuit body, I think of Emily Foster, Miss Georgia, who won swimsuit, and Kelly Goddard. I mean, I think and oh my gosh, Danae DeMacy too, who also won swimsuit. So
great figures. Great.
Oh my gosh!
So didn't need as much padding.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I needed all the padding. So I was the very last contestant to compete in swimwear. So up to that point, my parents hadn't seen any of my wardrobe. Dana kept that from them. They didn't even know about the evening gown either. So, but they had this acclamation of those first 2 days to get used to, okay, Dana chose this. Oh, okay, there's the talent. Okay, there's this. Come that last final night of competition, or of preliminary competition.
Yes.
Contestant number 17 on the last night. And we were all just empowered by being with one another in the midst of the horror of what the entire nation was experiencing. So we buoyed each other during that moment. So I felt very buoyed by our class, by our sisters, to get out there and just strut it in that.
And the crowd was so behind us, and what they had gone through just to get there, right? I mean, for all of us, it just felt like that much more support, and it was that much more raucous. And during prelims, they got to come in and see, and the place had been decorated beautifully. There was so much patriotism, little flags waving in the audience, big banners, big flags out on the sides of boardwalk. I mean, it was just fantastic, the support that we received that year. So yes, absolutely, last in swimsuit coming out when you're in this Star Spangled Band-Aid,
which is hilarious. So I go to the whatever it is, our hospitality afterwards. What's it called? A visitation, excuse me. And at visitation, I walk in, Dana greets me. She's just excited. You know, we're done. We're done with preliminary competition. And up runs to me Darla Harman, running really fast. That's my mom's name. Running up. And she looks at me and she kind of pulls me aside because she's afraid to say this really loudly, but she says, if you make it to the finals tomorrow, or I guess that was Thursday, right? We had a day off for the parade. So Thursday night, yes. And Darla said, if you make it to the finals, what am I going to tell the pastor's wife? What was that patriotic Band-Aid you were wearing? And that was the last thing I thought my mom was going to say.
Right? Like, honey, good job. You look great up there.
I was like, what? What are you talking about? I thought this was great. So the rest of the organ crew did overhear, because she's Italian. She's not quite yet. See, Darla Harman's on here and she's like, yep, that's exactly what I said. But the rest of our crew overheard. And now that phrase lives on in infamy among our pageant circle.
Yes, one of my favorites. And so what I love is when I was watching your promo for your event that you have coming up next week, which I thought was hysterical. Katie Harman. Oh my goodness. You are always so poised and always so polished and put together and such a sophisticate. And so for you to do, I'm telling you, if people have not seen this promo, that it's on your page. It's hysterical. And you, at the very end, you are fully clothed and you are outside and you have the patriotic Band-Aid on over top of your clothes.
And my daughter, who was filming that, she was filming that particular portion of that reel. She thought, more so than usual, that I had completely lost my mind. And she said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
We have to,
Absolutely.
we have to not take ourselves so seriously."
Thank you.
And for years, Breann, for years, I have struggled with body image. And I know that this is a common struggle among our sisters, for everyone who goes through the pageant system. Even when swimsuit was eliminated, there is still this lingering, nagging pressure that you have to have the perfect body. And for those of us who have been through Miss America, when you walk across the stage and you feel so empowered in that swimsuit, and it's kind of like the apex of all this work that you have done for self-improvement.
Yes.
And what we don't often associate with all of that work is that it is unsustainable for us to look that way forever.
Right.
And the best part of that, it's okay. It's okay.
Thank you.
It's okay to age, to become midlife. It's become this like taboo subject to say, "Oh, we're now midlife." What? This is freedom. This is fantastic.
And you totally said that. I love, you got it out. You said, it's a good time to remind my kids that I used to look like this.
Yeah.
And I just think, yes, every mother, right, of our age with kids who are in the teenage category need the freedom to be able to say, well, this was back in the day, and this is me now, and you know what? I'm still vibrant and loving life and all of those things. And you know what? You could still make that thing fit over your clothes, girlfriend. So I'm here to tell you that you must be doing something right. Because middle age does not stolen anything from you.
Breann, things shift. So today they're not quite in the same spot in the patriotic Band-Aid. And I did show it to my husband. I walked up to him, I've got the jeans outfit on, and I was like, "Look, it still fits." And he, in all seriousness, because this is his personality, was like, "Does it though?"
Bless him.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping it real. The teenagers and the husband are keeping it real all the time.
Absolutely. And we're so grateful for them. So grateful for them. Okay, so let's talk about that fun little promo video that you made, because one of the things that you do right off the bat at the very beginning, which we all know that we can now totally enjoy and relax the rest of the reel, because we recognize as observers that this is going to be super funny, is you toss your crown, your Miss America crown, into the dishwasher. Which, okay, have you ever washed the crown in the dishwasher? Please tell me.
Oh, and I am amazed at the amount of people who have said, "You didn't really turn on the dishwasher, did you?"
Yeah.
No. But as we know in media, you've got to have something to capture attention right off the bat.
Absolutely.
And Breann, it was just one of those moments of like in the middle of the night, as I was thinking about the concept of Bring My Crown, which I do want to talk a little bit more about for all of us, pageant girls. The concept of Bring My Crown is we all have a story to share.
I wanted to touch on that as well.
Yes,
we do. And
we all
do. Every title holder has something in her year, whether she was a local title holder, whether she, even if she was a local contestant who competed maybe more than one time. Every woman who has had access to the Miss America opportunity has some kind of a story. She has a story about the organization itself, a narrative of her own about the way that she experienced it, the way that she was treated by it, or by volunteers, or by sister contestants. She has a story about what it gave her. She has a story about how it imprinted on her life. There are so many, but I think as fans, and because you are part of the elite class of Miss Americas, we want to continue to believe that it's all perfection sometimes, and that all of the glamour and all of the glory and all of the honor that it is to be Miss America, we have to hold in our hearts that it must be all of the things that we assume it to be and want it to be, even when sometimes that is not the case. Or we'll talk. I would like to ask you a couple questions about the A&E special as well. But
Yes,
um,
yes.
I know that when you see that many former Miss Americas coming out and saying, this was hard for me, I struggled with this, the organization misrepresented this about me, or I didn't feel like I had a voice. Those are important things that I think even Robin Fleming this year, when she was talking about the documentary, acknowledged this is informative
Oh,
for me
yeah.
as a new CEO. It's important that these stories be brought to light and be shared. And of course, you, in your typical fashion, have decided to put your story to music, which I love that. So tell about the creative process and when you decided that you were ready, because I know that sometimes we wrestle with our stories before we're ready to really, and then how do we want to couch it when we share that information, so that we're respectful, because you are so respectful, and
That's
you are
the
so
balance.
dignified and poised and truly just an elegant woman in every aspect. And you were that woman when you were 21 and selected as Miss America and the representative for our class. So it's no surprise to me that even though there's some ugliness that must be brought to light, you've done it with such beauty. So please tell a little, share.
Oh my goodness. I'm honored at everything that you just said. And you're absolutely right that it's a very difficult position that Miss Americas find themselves in, because at the end of the day, this changed my life. It changed my life for the better.
Yes.
I am beyond grateful. And when I say beyond grateful, I mean that gratitude extends to every day of my life. There isn't an aspect of my life that hasn't been touched by that experience. And I live with that gratitude in my heart, and I make the choice to do that. But what the experience of holding that gratitude taught me was that there were facets. There are facets to gratitude. And there are facets to being human. And when we look at a gem and we see how it is cut, so the terminology of facet being the way that something is faced, right? Cut. Think of a diamond, right? And the particular shape of it will refract light in a different way depending on where it is in the light. And that's our lives. That's every situation,
So
be it good or bad, no matter how we're looking at it. And if we're only seeing something beautiful in one light, we are not actually seeing all of the beauty.
I love
And so it was important for me 20 years into the experience for a couple of reasons to eliminate shame from the experience of sharing. And I wish I wish I weren't saying this, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I did have someone kind of tell me as I was exploring the idea of how to tell my story.
Yes.
Because I'd had a couple of people ask over the years. And doing a book just I didn't feel ready for that yet. And blogs were booming, and there were various ways, the internet, the Instagrams, all the things were starting to blossom. And there were so many ways for people to share their stories. And nothing quite hit for me. Nothing quite felt authentic to my particular story. And so
you are a creative. You are not the person who's going to sit down and write a book. I mean, that's just not, you may someday. But that's not your,
someday.
yes, you are a performer. You are a vocalist, you are well trained, you are capable of instilling into others the experience of what you can express through song and through music, what you can bring to the stage through performance. I mean, it is no mystery to me that when you finally settled on this, that was your like, aha, I got it.
It was a total like, I gotta do this is the way to tell the story, because song affects me so deeply.
Yes.
And story through song really means something to me personally as well, and that is where my training is. And so it felt most natural to tell the story in that way. But when I shared that, this person, this was before I set out on the journey, just about a year before I set out on the journey to undertake Bring My Crown, the show, the cabaret show. She said, no one wants to hear our stories. We're irrelevant.
No.
Why? It's not.
Oh my.
It's not important. And it was like an arrow to my heart. And it also really diminished this powerful gratitude that I had for the experience, because I thought, well, no, that's not at all what I experienced as Miss America. You know this too. We know this when we're title holders, that people are drawn to the crown not because it's the most perfect thing in the room. They're not drawn to you because you are off on a shelf somewhere, totally unreachable. No.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about the Miss America opportunity is that we are public servants.
Yes, it is the most.
And that crown is a beacon. It's a beacon of hope.
Unique form of celebrity.
Yeah.
Because we're not like royalty, say in the UK, which are completely untouchable, right? We're not like your typical celebrity that is elevated beyond accessibility. And so it truly is the girl next door. She is the people's princess, so to speak, in the United States of America. And I just listening to Grace Stanke when I was at Miss America this year, tell her stories about her year and how surprised and shocked she was that people would come to her and unburden themselves.
That's exactly right. They feel comfortable doing so. They come to you because they want to be seen. At the end of the day, the human experience is to be loved and to love in return. And so that opportunity, the Miss America opportunity, is it's a vehicle for that. And the amount of people that were fascinated and curious and delighted, and some of them mystified, and even when they were angry about it, or even when they were disgusted, that was still a reaction. And that is telling. That's very telling, because when there is a reaction, that means that there is some sort of legitimacy to it. Absolutely. And we've heard this for years and years and years. People have asked this question so many times it makes me crazy. Is Miss America still relevant? Yes, it's still relevant. If people are still showing up, if they're still tuning in, if contestants are still participating in this, and if we are still sharing our stories, yes. Any experience that is uplifting women is relevant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can tell you, I know that you were not present this year at Miss America, but sitting.
It was my daughter's birthday.
I know. But sitting under Robin Fleming's words at Miss America, we are in good hands. She has great plans to continue to uplift women, and she absolutely wants to make the Miss America opportunity accessible to as many women as we can possibly entice to come and have the opportunity to walk through what it means to compete in a scholarship organization at all levels. And it was wonderful to hear. So I absolutely, the old girl is still relevant today, and we are so pleased that you, Ms. Midlife, as you're so proclaiming yourself, have opted to go forward with this storytelling so that we get to see behind the curtain. And the wonderful thing about storytelling is getting to see our heroine, our Miss America, you know, brought low and then redeem the entire story. And so I'm just thrilled that you are bringing this to the West Coast, because I know that you didn't start on the West Coast with this. And when I saw it being promoted to be performed in New York, I just thought, oh, sorry.
Oh, it was always the dream to be able to take this throughout the US, and that is the plan. That's the plan. And I am so grateful for the vehicle of 54 Below in New York City, and my dear friend Corey Brunish, who was the co-producer of this particular product. That was his brainchild. And he identified that the cabaret environment that is 54 Below in New York City would be perfect for trying out this kind of storytelling with song, comedy and drama, all of it intertwined together. It would be a great place to show that out, to show that. And through that experience of building the show, then came the idea of, oh, we should make this into a live album. And I'm so grateful for 54 Below, because they did all of the recording of that particular show. And it's, for me, in the exploration process of this, there was this fear. And this is why a lot of women also fear telling their story, is that it's not done yet, was one of the things. And what if it's not perfect? The thing about a live recording is that it's live. So we're really used to training the heck out of things and making it perfect before we ever let anyone see anything. No, that's not helpful. So I was like, okay, we're gonna try this out. I want to be brave. This is part of this story. The through thread in this story that I tell is where bravery bloomed throughout the experience. And for those who have seen the A&E documentary, I talked about in that 4th episode the horrors of experiencing a CEO scandal and being silenced by Bob Renison. And for you and I, it was such an unusual experience, because Bob was really seemed to be championing us at the beginning of this. And none of us knew what was happening behind the scenes, and that the organization was bankrupt. And it was such a blow to be silenced after we had been given the biggest opportunities of our lives to share our voice. We were able to vote as to whether the competition was going to continue or not. And then less than 4 months later, I'm told that my voice doesn't matter. So that was something that I had to really wrestle with. And I talk about that very plainly in the story. But the thing about that was that it happened midway through that year as Miss America. And Breann, it did not squelch the opportunity. I went back on the road. I was still being Miss America. People still wanted to see Miss America. And even though I felt quite silenced by that experience, people wanted to hear what Miss America had to say. And I learned so much about the value of telling my story and telling others' stories, because for me, it was about breast cancer patients, and also about rescue workers, because I was working with the USO. So it was this dual pronged platform issue for me that year. And it didn't, for me, and I talk about this in the show, it didn't matter at that moment whether I could articulate what I felt. It mattered that I showed up. That I was there, that I was absorbing what I was seeing in the goodness of other people, and taking that to the next location and being whatever Miss America they needed in that moment.
Yes, the ministry of presence.
Yeah, absolutely.
The very fact that our people's princess would arrive on scene with a hard hat on and otherwise, right? And looking just, classy, fresh as a daisy, there to bring a cup of coffee, there to offer a hug, there to lend an ear. Just, I mean, literally, it's like showing up and you are just holding the American flag in your eyes for people to just be absorbed by and wrapped up in. And I just, nobody better.
It was a front row seat to see the best of America. I mean, to go from Atlantic City then to New York City and to see the graffiti on the walls saying "God bless America," and to travel the U.S. and we talked about this. I see that under the crown behind you there, Breann.
Yes.
In our book, all of us detailed what we saw throughout the nation in that very, very unusual year. And what we saw was heartwarming. It was bolstering. And I think for all of us, we carry that. We carry that as a torch with purpose and pride, and especially pride of purpose as we go forward in our respective lives and as we age and as we talk about our experiences. But that's something that I hearkened to quite a bit during that story. And then in the latter half of Bring My Crown, it's all about life after the crown because life goes on.
Yes.
And yeah, you have this wealth of experiences that you've now had during this year as a title holder. Now what is kind of the other question, which brings me back to why the crown was in the dishwasher.
Yes.
Because that was a way to show that there's real life happening around the crown.
Yes.
So
let me ask you.
I cleaned it with a toothbrush.
Of course
I never put it in. Yeah, I never cleaned it in the dishwasher.
But I love it. I love the whole idea of it. In fact, I wanted to ask you, where in your house does the crown live?
So this is a great question. It lives on a bookshelf in my office.
Oh, perfect.
And my mom, after I crowned my successor, after I crowned Erica Harold and took the crown off for the last time, so when I took it off, she gave me this beautiful glass box. And so it sits in a glass box. But today it's in the traveling case. You got one too. We all have a traveling case. For the longest time, there's yours. For the longest time, mine was in a caboodle. Like my local crown was in a caboodle.
Of course it was. Of course.
Because we were, children of the 80s.
Yes.
It was like barely 2000 by the time we were crowned.
Everything in the caboodle. Those things, you couldn't break those things. So the perfect traveling case.
They were fantastic. So then this was the official box that they gave me. And within it is a mirror. You can see, hi, I need to clean it. But it's got a mirror and then the crown.
Oh, yes.
Is within there. And this is still the original. And even underneath is the elastic that I had to dye with tea. Because remember back then I was real blonde, really, really blonde. Yeah. So we dyed it to match my hair and that's how I pinned it on. And that is where the crown lives. But I want to say one more thing too about this concept of Bring My Crown.
Yes.
And for those who attend the show and who aren't, who are going to download the album on Saturday when it comes out.
Yep.
This concept of Bring My Crown is something that needs to instigate, or that I meant to be an instigator for story time. Like the original concept when I was talking about all of this was bring my crown, kids. It's time for story.
Oh, I love
story time. It's like campfire time.
Yes.
You bring out something that evokes some sort of feeling and emotion. And we live with the crown in our heart. It's not on our head all the time anymore, but we live with it. And anytime we are out in the public, we're bringing our crown with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the biggest thanks that we can show for this very unusual experience is to bring our crown everywhere we go, to represent ourselves and those that we love with immense gratitude, with grace, with patience, with elegance, with humor. that's the biggest blessing that we can give to others while we carry this crown. So when this whole experience is for others. I want to invite others to bring their crown, and they don't have to be a Miss America title holder. I want every single human to feel like their crown, even if it's an invisible crown, that they're able to bring that wherever they go. And that their story is worthy.
Yes, and because our greatest testimony are our greatest hardships, right? And so here you have the burden, right, of the crown, of being that person who's in the limelight. You are in the eye. You are a focal point. You are also a target.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And I talked about that too in a protest. Yeah, I talked about a protest that was organized to protest me. Yeah. Right. So that was tough. For someone who just wants to make everyone happy, I was like, what is happening right now?
Well, I love that I get to come and see you in person. I cannot wait for this event to come up. But I did want to ask you, as one woman and mother to another, because you are a creative spirit, and because your decisions about how you're going to invest in the world, in your family, into art, after you took the crown off, it hasn't taken like a straight linear path. It's been a very unique journey for you. When you take on, or when you have decided, I'm going to take on a project, and it's going to take a lot of my time, a lot of my energy, a lot of my focus, and family, I'm not going to be available to you in the same way that I would be if I didn't take on this project. As a woman and as a mother, how do you balance the desire for you to pursue this thing that fills you up, while at the same time recognizing that it's going to diminish your availability to this family that you care so deeply for? Absolutely. How do you balance that? How do you reconcile that?
That's something that I talk about with the women who are part of Virtuosa Society. And Virtuosa Society is a membership collective of female creatives that I founded last year. And the impetus for Virtuosa Society, of which I talk about in the show too, was to provide this network of support for female creatives for the reason that you just so eloquently encapsulated. And that is this conundrum of balance as a woman who has a desire to contribute to the world. And beyond creatives, this is innate within all of us, is to contribute something lasting to the world. So along those lines, as I work with other women through Virtuosa Society, and our team works together to answer this question and to provide resources and support to help other women answer this question for themselves, there's a concept that we introduced called seasonality. I am seasonal is our mantra for 2024 for Virtuosa Society. And what this means is that we are not always in bloom. And so for me, and what I've seen over these last 18 years of motherhood. So my eldest is 18. He's off in college now, which tell me where I was this time last September. I was crying in a corner, Breann. Yes. I was like, I'm never going to recover. Nobody explains how hard this is when you let your baby go, because you protect them. You're ferocious in your protection of these beautiful babies. And my daughter is 15 now, and she's a freshman in high school. And so for all of those years of raising them and still trying to nurture this creative soul that I was just born with, that I just know is innate within me, it became very clear to me that I could not blossom in both areas at the exact same time. Nor should I continue to feel the pressure to do that. We as women need to recognize that there are sacrifices in our decisions, no matter what they are. you just go. You got to stick with it. You got to make a decision and have that decision. If that decision is predicated through your intuition, 9 times out of 10, I sing this in one of the medleys. Lady, you're doing just fine. So you've got to trust your intuition. But in doing so, and in acknowledging that we are going to be in various states of blossom throughout these various facets of us, our personality, our identity, and our lives, the sun's not always going to shine in the same way at the
No.
same time for all time. So I made a conscious decision to be a mom early on. I'm so grateful that I was given the privilege of being a mom, because it is not, I readily and heartily acknowledge, after someone who has also had a miscarriage, that was devastating. It rocked my world to lose a child. So it is a privilege to be a mother. And I knew also, living in rural Oregon, not everything was going to be available. I was not going to be able to nourish this career in the same way as I saw other people doing. So instead, I made the conscious choice to do it my way.
Yes.
And to embrace the nonlinear experience of allowing things to be off balance, to be performing quite heavily some years. And I would have to miss school performances. I would have to I missed some of my children's childhood during those years when I was heavily performing. And then when I decided, no, I really want to be home more, I'm going to open a voice studio, I'm going to teach so that I can be home more a little bit. Then there was a little bit more balance there. But the scales were always shifting. And that is something that I encourage women to embrace, is this idea of seasonality. And right now, as I was preparing this show, this has been a 2.5-year process. This was not overnight. This was a long process. And before that, since the age of 11, I have been performing heavily. So there was a sense of consistency that I needed to pour into this art form, and that at the right time, it would blossom in the way that it needed to.
Yes.
And I still believe that. I trust that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, because it's just such a unique way to be able to unfold the experience, which I'm sure has been very healing for you as well. And to wrap it up in music. I mean, and I love your analogies, especially the blooming. And so, but I did want to ask, because you debuted this in New York, as you bring it to Oregon, have you had the opportunity or the desire to shift or change anything about the original production? And maybe just give us a few teasers about that. Okay.
We do, because this is the full show. So the cabaret show is much shorter, and there was no intermission. At 54 Below, at the time that we debuted this, which was in 2022, it was still a post-COVID world in many ways, especially in New York City. So the show was shorter. It was more compact. And truthfully, I was coming out of participating in these various documentaries that were taking place because of the 100th anniversary of Miss America. And so there were still many things that I was working through personally, emotionally, in therapy. There's much about that experience coming upon this 20-year anniversary and the 100-year anniversary collided together. So our 20th anniversary collided with the 100th anniversary of the pageant, and we were all still reeling from COVID. So I mean, there was so much that I was still processing. So that show was much more compact.
And then you're having to put yourself out there in front of a media organization who's inviting you to come, and you're working through all of these emotions and all of these things. And of course, when you put your story in the hands of someone else to tell it, they don't always do you a service in
Yeah.
the way that they retell it.
Mhm.
And there's things, and so I really wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
there are things that sometimes are omitted,
Mhm.
or there are some questions that never get asked, so you
Oh, yeah.
never have the chance to say the
Yeah.
thing. And so I guess I just wanted to ask, like, in your experience in working with the documentaries.
Oh, yeah. The multiple ones.
I know.
Multiple.
Did you
Yeah.
feel like they gave you a fair opportunity to share?
Mm.
And then once you had shared, do you feel like they, of course, everybody wants to sensationalize
Yeah.
everything, right? Because it doesn't
Kind
sell
of
if it's
know.
not
It's part
sensational.
of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
If you felt like you were fairly portrayed in what they did choose to use when they put you up on screen and stuck your name on it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it was I'll pause from telling you what's new in the show, and
Yes.
I'll answer this question because I think it will really tie into what's
Okay.
new in the
Perfect.
show too. So
Perfect.
I think the most prominent documentary that is in everyone's minds right now, especially in the Miss America system, is the A&E documentary, The Secrets of Miss America. So what was unusual about this was that they were talking only to mostly we were told it was only Miss Americas. We didn't know that there were going to be other voices involved, and the way that it shaped up was actually fascinating to me.
Yeah.
100% fascinating. I will say I was not displeased with it at all. It was like a huge whoa
Yes.
moment to watch it through their eyes. And I will tell you, like Box Entertainment, who did this documentary, they're a UK based crew. They're not American.
Right.
So they had just come off of this documentary about Princess Diana before they started filming this. So it was really interesting. And then before that, it was The Secrets of Playboy.
Right.
So they had their system. So yes, in terms of sensationalism, they knew what they wanted.
Oh, yeah.
They absolutely, you don't name something Secrets of Miss America without wanting to make it sensational. But they were super respectful, and they had courted the Miss Americas for a year before we started filming. And that process was quite extensive. Numerous phone conversations, tons of research, things that I submitted to them that they had to comb through. They went through archives of video footage and found things that I had never seen as Miss America. I mean, it was just really remarkable, the depth of investment that they had in this story. But I think at the end of the day, what they found, and I truly believe that they didn't know what was going to come out of our collective stories, but what they found was extremely powerful, especially the moment, I can't remember which episode it was, where you hear 10 Miss Americas in a row say, I felt alone, I felt alone, I felt alone, I felt alone, I felt alone. I cried. When I watched it, because I didn't know that. Our sisters we hadn't talked about that. I didn't know that this person that I thought had a fantastic year ever felt that way.
Right.
I had a lot of people say to me, I didn't know that you felt alone. I talked to Joanne Silver, who was my longtime traveling companion, and she said, I didn't know that you felt alone. And I was standing there with you at these appearances.
Yeah.
And in that, yes, you are hearing me say for 2 seconds, yeah, I did feel really alone. What people don't realize is that I sat with that crew for 10 hours.
Right.
There is 10 hours of footage. And we were talking about our vote.
Yes.
Talking about 9/11 and all of those experiences, talking about life after the crown. I mean, it was hours worth of exchange with a crew who was so respectful. They were a joy to work with. I did feel like I was in good hands, but I also knew going into it that they're going to use what they want to use.
Yep.
It's redacted.
Absolutely.
The whole story, anytime we are not the ones telling our story, it's redacted. And even when it is our own story, sometimes we don't remember it all. So there's all of that.
Yes.
So I was not displeased with how we were represented. There were clear issues that they were able to bring to light through the documentary. To name a few, coercion,
Mm-hmm.
mental health,
Yes.
huge,
Oh, yeah.
and racism,
Mm-hmm.
body
Mm-hmm.
image.
Yeah.
Those four big topics
Yeah.
are things that we should be addressing for young
For
women
sure.
through the organization. And Robin was the first one to acknowledge when she watched it. I know that I can only imagine. In fact, I don't have to imagine. I know I was there on a Zoom call where she was like, what am I gonna find here, ladies?
Yes.
I'm a month into this job. What did you
Yes.
say? So the initial thing that we had to get over, though, all of us as a group, those of us who participated, and also the organization at large, was that in participating in a documentary like this cannot and should not be looked at as complaining. None of us were complaining.
No, you were not.
Every single Miss America is 110% bubbling over with gratitude for the experience.
Yes.
But when you fail to balance a very human person within an experience that's very complex, and anytime there's money and notoriety and a whole bunch of other things, legacy involved, it's going to be complex.
Yes.
And it was beautiful for Robin and for the organization to embrace this as an opportunity to make the experience that much better for the women who are coming forward.
Yes.
So I saw this, and I cannot tell you the hundreds of messages that I received from young women in this program and outside of this program who said, hearing you all talk about these issues made me feel less alone and made me feel like I can speak out about these things, that I can seek help now, that I can feel validated, to feel like I'm worthy in the midst of this. I mean, there are so many situations, even among our own sisterhood. I was able to reconnect with some of our sisters in a completely new way after that documentary. And I was so grateful. And it was a huge weight lifted to not have to gloss over the humanity of the whole experience.
Absolutely.
And I want to go forth with that. So when you asked about what's new in the show, that is what is new. So there is a fantastic new medley that actually Sutton Foster made famous, but this is a fantastic medley that we've added to kind of talk just a little bit more about this time period between when I experienced that university protest and the end of the year as Miss America, like that, encapsulating that time where I was like, oof, this is an amazing opportunity for women's empowerment. That to kind of showcase when that shift happened, I needed a song for that moment. And so my music director and I were like, oh, this is the song. So that's in there. We talked about that time period. So it's going to be, it's really uplifting and encouraging. And I love this piece. And then there are two new sections in the second half of the show. One that is, I hope, is going to have you rolling in tears because it's completely unexpected.
Okay.
It's a comedic piece. And then there is a showcase about Virtuosa Society. And these are some of the songs that I came across in my research for the podcast, for the Virtuosa Society podcast. I'm showcasing some of my favorite songs by female composers. And so those three things are the new additions. And we did take out a little bit from the original show to make room for these new things. But for me, that's what happens. Life evolves. It should. It should keep evolving. And that's what the end of the show is all about, is how you evolve. That I end the song with a Sondheim piece from Sunday in the Park with George called Move On. I was like, this is the button. This is what we're doing. We're all continually blossoming.
Yes, and moving forward in life. And I love that. And so I do want to ask you, Where are you at today as we're talking about moving on with the Miss America organization? Where are you at with the organization in terms of, support and as well as in terms of hopes for the future? What do you see going forward? What would your hope be for Robin's leadership, for the young women who are sort of the up and coming? I mean, this is our post-COVID generation that is now coming to experience what it means to bring their best selves to a stage.
Right.
And when they've been, asked to relegate themselves behind a screen
So
for 2 full years of their educational experience in many instances. And so this is really an interesting time for what we're seeing of women coming into the program who are having to, the program itself has to adjust to the type of women who are coming into the program and what their best selves look like.
Oh my
right?
goodness. Yes.
So then we have changes in the scoring. We introduce the her story, things like that, changes that we have to make to adjust to the world that we are in today and the women who want to access the opportunity today. So I'm just curious where your heart is for Miss America today, the organization, and then what your hope is for the program going forward.
Such a good question, Breann. Such a good question. Well, I live under the adage of adapt or die. So, I mean, if we love this organization. I love this organization. You love this organization. We have seen and witnessed firsthand the impact that it has had, not only on us personally, but on thousands of women throughout its 102-year history now. And the impact of that cannot be overstated, truly cannot be overstated. And so for me, I always have this desire of seeing the organization. And now I love that it's called the Miss America Opportunity. It's so perfect. I love that rebranding there. But in this, I always wanted it to reflect in a way that the current young woman competing sees herself, but to reflect the world as it is today, so that the young women in the organization can make the biggest impact that they can. So in saying that, that means that the organization has to perhaps slough off some of what is not serving today's young women in order to become something better and stronger, a more clarified opportunity for women to make an impact in the world. And I support changes that are for the betterment of the contestants themselves.
Yes.
That is always where my heart lies, and always where it will lie, is with the contestants themselves. Apart from that too, this is a volunteer organization. That's how it was built. That is the foundation of it. It is central to the beating heart of the success of this organization and of the young women who go through it. So I will always champion the Miss America opportunity, uplifting our volunteers, and also helping people to feel like they can find themselves in this organization at every stage. If you feel like you too believe in the power of this kind of uplift for women, and you want to volunteer in some way, and you have a certain subset of skills, it is the Miss America Opportunities job. It's in their best interest to make sure that they're attractional, not only for contestants,
but for
the people who run the programs.
Yes.
So to be attractional means that you understand the needs of your populace. So that's where the adapt or die concept comes in, is that the Miss America Opportunity has this beautiful new century
Mhm.
for us,
Mhm.
for the organization
Yeah.
to see that,
Mhm.
to move forward perhaps from where we started, which thank goodness we did.
Oh,
Thank goodness this program
thank
evolved.
goodness,
Thank
right? Otherwise, we
goodness.
wouldn't have the patriotic band-aid. We'd all still be wearing those ugly.
Although BB Shop's beautiful striped one
Yes,
piece that is
one
now in
piece.
the
Yes,
Smithsonian, that was the whole inspiration behind Barbie. I never knew that fact. I
I love it.
never knew that her swimsuit was the inspiration for Barbie's first swimsuit.
I
It's
love
so,
that.
that just makes me so happy. The depths, the tentacles, right? The little roots, will say, of what the organization has in history.
Yep, yep. So
That is
BB was
something to
on,
be nurtured.
yes, BB was
Yeah.
on my judges panel. She
Oh,
picked me. She picked me to go to Miss
she
America.
she's amazing.
She's
She's
so amazing.
amazing. Yes.
So amazing.
So in so many words, to sum that up, I wholeheartedly support the direction of the organization. I'm very excited. Obviously, when Madison Marsh was crowned, I mean, we did this like, because we're an Air Force family. And my son is ROTC. Obviously, my husband was a 26-year
Yes,
veteran of the
yes.
Air Force. So this was so exciting to us to
Like your husband got
see.
married.
Yes, which is hilarious because I think I told you this. Part of my year was spent with the USO and was spent with military
Yeah.
throughout that entire year. Oh, my dog is like trying to push my door open to come in and say hi. Sorry, so I got a little distracted. But I made so many military appearances, and that's how I met my husband,
Yes.
was during one of those appearances. And there is this picture of us at an appearance where we're in an F-15. My husband was an F-15 pilot. He now teaches other F-15 pilots, so he's an instructor. And he is showing me, he's my host at this particular appearance, and I'm up in this F-15 cockpit, and I've got the crown on, and I've got a flight suit on, and he's showing me the instruments, and he's so suave. I mean, he was so handsome. He still is. He still is.
Oh,
Beating
yeah.
heart for Tim Ebner. But he was
I'm
second
sure his
lieutenant.
heart. I'm sure his heart
You
was
met him at that time
racing.
too.
I know,
Who
showing Miss
knows? I don't know.
America around.
His
And
call sign is coma, so who knows? He's always pretty calm and cool and collected.
yeah.
But it's so funny because when I've had that picture for so long, and I still have the flight suit, and
Yeah.
obviously I've lived all these years with a pilot, and I have such respect for how
Absolutely.
much hard work that is. That's what our son is doing now. He's aspiring. He's in the ROTC, the Air Force ROTC, to become a pilot, all those things. So the fact that Tim was a second lieutenant in that picture, and I've got the crown, and we were in the flight suits and the whole thing, and I texted Madison. I said, well, now you are Miss America, but you're the real deal. Now you're the second lieutenant in the crown, in the cockpit, in the flight suit. I was only playing I was playing dress up.
Right.
You're the real deal. So that was such a full circle moment. I
Oh,
just love that is the attraction, that Miss America is the home
yes.
for women like Madison, for women like Allison Burke, who's our current Miss Oregon,
Mhm.
for your Miss Washington. I mean,
Yes,
I
who
love
is now
watching
a
these
veteran.
girls.
She served for 4 years in the
Are
Army.
you
And
serious?
Vanessa Munson is a sergeant in the U.S. Army, and just mustered out. I think it was last week or the week before. So she is our first Miss Washington, who was both active duty and now a veteran. We are so proud to have
Well,
her.
and
Yeah.
our Andrea Plummer, who is Miss New York.
Yes.
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 She's now in California as a pediatrician, but she was what was it? She was just about ready to enlist in the Air Force, so she was in the Air Force
Yes.
at the time. Andrea's going to have to come in and educate us
I
on
know.
this again.
Yep.
It's been a
Yep.
long
Put
time.
the facts in. We need our pageant
Yeah.
fact checkers.
But that was something special too that we harken back to, because all of us were so proud of her service, proud that she was part of our class and that she was serving in the Air Force. So it's such a full circle thing, and I am just immensely proud of the women who are going through this program.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an honor
Yeah.
to be of service, to be of help to them and to the volunteers. And thank you for what you do, Breann, because you are bringing such light and joy and real clarity to the preparation experience. And You are so dedicated. You have always been. You know what it takes to do this job. And for you to pour forth this incredible knowledge and expertise into others is a gift.
Oh, well, Katie, thank you for saying that. I wanted to mention briefly also that I know that many of our local title holders and our women who have been Miss Washington have been able to access you. And because you are our girl next door, you are our Miss
Literally.
America, who's
Just
literally
down the street, down in Oregon.
down here in Oregon. And so I wanted to acknowledge that as well, that I just think that it's so special. There aren't many people who get to experience a Miss America as like a true human being, right? And I feel so fortunate that I got to know you before we competed at Miss America, because back in our day, our time was so limited between crowning and then competing at the national level that there were no opportunities made available for the women to get to know each other before we actually showed up for competition. And so it was really hard to figure out how to develop relationship. And so truly that shopping trip that we had with Steph in California was just a great opportunity for the three of us to we showed up at national and we already had a couple of friends, it made it just that much easier, right? To sort of assimilate into the experience. And so I really value that, but I also value the fact that, the moment they selected you literally went immediately to work, and you went to work in a way that most people who are selected Miss America never had to work, right? Going and having media week is very different than going to New York and visiting Ground Zero days after you've been selected. And looking back now, right? You're talking about your son who's away at college. You were 21. Yeah. Like when we think about in our 40s, when we think about a 21-year-old taking on, and like you said, seeing things that were hard to see, but you did it, and you did it with poise and grace, and the nation needed you, Katie. The nation needed so badly. Well, they needed the pageant, right? You tell that story, and I love that story.
Yes,
because I fought for that. We had women who were not ready. They were not ready to continue. Even I believe Angela Perez Baracchio, when she came in to address us first, she was weeping. She was terrified for her family. And just wanted to go. A lot of women just wanted to, we got to get out of here. We don't know what's going to happen next. We need to get back to what we know is safe. And here we all are, 51 representatives from, the current Miss America. And we're all here together having this combined experience in the wake of this tragedy, and nobody knows anything. No. I can't imagine.
It was a mystery. It was an absolute mystery.
Our poor traveling companions.
So Breann, here's something really interesting. This has always intrigued me. The story, I should backtrack here. The story behind the vote has always intrigued me, because everything happened so quickly for us, and then we went our separate ways after crowning, and we've had our reunions since, but in those reunions, we've never talked about how we felt going into that vote. And here's a little spoiler for the Virtuosa Society podcast. I interviewed a group of our ladies, and now, Breann, I want to add you to this too, to get a cross section of our thoughts to tell this story. And it's so ironic that I would do another documentary with A&E, because the first documentary that I did with A&E was to tell this story. And that was the 10th anniversary of the crowning, or excuse me, of the 10th anniversary of 9/11. They did this beautiful documentary, When Pop Culture Changed America. It's what it's called. It's a really cool thing. You can find it on YouTube. But it told our story of that vote. But it was all, when you get far enough beyond that time period and that experience to then start to think, oh, I wonder what she thought. I know what I thought. I remember what I thought. We wrote about it in our book. But to then go back and try and process it from a wider lens or through a wider lens was something that really intrigued me. So I did create this podcast episode about this. It's still evolving. So that will be the cap to season 1 of the Virtuosa Society podcast.
I love it.
But in talking about this and in you asking how it was to go forth then from that experience, I will tell you this: the uniqueness of that vote. And for those who don't know, the summary of that was that when 9/11 happened and the 24 hours that ticked by afterwards, we were sequestered. We were told by the staff of the Miss America organization as well as ABC that there would no longer be a pageant. But they had no plans for us. They had no idea what to do with us, essentially.
Well, they couldn't put us.
We can't send you home. Like you said, 51 young women from throughout the United States. What are we going to do with them? So we were sequestered. We were kind of quarantined. Now everyone really knows what quarantine means. That was us. We were quarantined in Boardwalk Hall for 24 hours. I think it was a little less than that all told. And during that time, that was when we got to know each other.
Yes.
I got to know you, even though I had this knowledge base of Breann. Now I really got to know another scared young woman and all of our thoughts and all of our feelings and our emotion and trying to find out if loved ones were safe. I mean, we were all going through this collective experience and had this collective trauma like the rest of the nation was going through. But for us, it was, we only had each other.
Right.
We could barely call out to our parents because we got one phone call each. For those of us in the dressing room, it was like jail. So,
and also I think it's important to point out that we had a radio. We had
a radio.
No television.
No cell phones.
No cell phones. I mean, we were truly cloistered in this building.
We newspaper, because remember, you had to go down to the galley in order
we
to
had to pass the newspaper around.
Yeah, that was contraband material. Even the radio was contraband, and I can't remember. I keep remembering that it was Eugenia Primus, Miss Alaska, who found that radio. Is that your recollection?
Okay. I think so. Yeah.
That she found that radio like near Sleepy Hollow, which was in the back behind the dressing rooms, and she brought it out and tuned it just in time for us to hear. I thought it was Peter Jennings, and it could have been Peter Jennings. I have since, for the podcast research, I have since gone back to listen to his broadcast, and it took me back almost immediately. I've got to send you the link to this, but when I listened to that, it was Charlie Gibson and Diane Sawyer and Peter Jennings. And when we heard, that was at that time, it was that the second tower had been hit, is when we heard in the dressing room. And so fast forward through, now all of our group is collected, not just those of us in the dressing room. And we're told that the Miss America pageant is probably not going to continue. And then we are finally released to our hotels and then assembled the next day, still under the knowledge or under the understanding that there would be no pageant. And then 12 hours into that, to be told, well, actually, by the Miss America organization and ABC, we've done some thinking and talking, and we believe that this decision lies with you, the contestants, because one of you will be Miss America. And there are some beautiful photographs of us sitting in the circle in the middle of Boardwalk Hall, given this opportunity to have a fairly private discussion. There were some pageant personnel around us, but for the most part, we were kind of left to our own devices, and we weren't on a time clock. From what I remember, we were able to just talk. There was no pressing matter, with the exception of, can we explore this idea of going ahead with a pageant or not? and that concept of relevance, and then the discussion of safety.
Right.
And our emotional and mental state, right, at that moment. These were the discussion things that were brought up in this circle.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was Aaron
For
Smith.
our families.
Our families,
concern for
absolutely.
the volunteers.
Yeah.
Concern for if I mean, at that point, no major sporting events
That's right.
were going on. We were being that the country was not gathering because we
Yeah.
didn't know if it would be safe to
Everything was
gather or
canceled.
if it would be a target. They were concerned that we could be
There was that.
targeted because we were the Miss America Pageant.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And being so close to New York City that no one really knew about what the targets were.
Right.
At that point, by that point, we knew about the White House, we knew about the Pentagon, we knew about, I don't know that we knew about Shanksville yet. I don't think that was until afterwards. But
later.
Yeah, but we knew that these were distinctly American targets. And targets with a lot of people congregated together.
And we had
yeah.
we had 10,000 seat venue in Atlantic City.
That's right. Yeah. And it was immensely empowering as a young woman of 21 years old to be side by side with other women who were being vulnerable, who were being honest, who were also very keenly aware of what the Miss America job entailed. We didn't walk into that blindly. We all knew when we showed up on the first day, when we stepped off that train and shook the governor's hand, or mayor of Atlantic City, or whoever it was. I think it was the governor.
The governor.
Shook his hand. Yeah. We knew what we were stepping into. We wanted to be Miss America. And so.
But going forward at this point, the role looked completely different.
It looked completely
different.
But we were being honest about it.
And frankly, to some degree, terrifying, right? Terrifying.
Absolutely.
I mean, the president had been targeted, right?
Like, that's exactly right. But it was to be surrounded by that many other young women who were acknowledging these things. It was like a truth generator. And for me, as I looked back at that experience, that was the first time that I had had such a truthful, empowering group experience with other women. And Aaron Empey standing, or excuse me, Aaron Smith, Aaron Empey too, but Aaron Smith standing up, who's now Aaron Smith Wachowski, great lawyer outside of Chicago, all these things. But when she stood up and she said, ladies, this is an opportunity for us to make our voices count. If we unify behind whatever decision we make, we're really going to make an impact. Yes, we have these individual feelings. Yes, we're scared. Yes, we have no idea what the job is going to entail. None of us can answer that question of what this pageant or what the job of Miss America is going to look like from this point forward. But we have this unusual opportunity where we have been asked what we want to do. And in entertainment, working in entertainment this long, I've never been asked that. Do you want to go ahead with this $40 million production today? Yeah. No, we'll never be given that opportunity again. But it was foreshadowing. It was indicative of, for me, the power of Miss America's voice. And so when I moved forth, Breann, with the crown on my head, that crown represented us in that circle. I mean, it gets me to this day. Like, for me, when I think of the symbolism, it is not lost on me. I look at the crown and I turn it over this way because I see the circle and I see in my mind us,
that circle,
making that decision, and how that, what I was carrying forward when I brought my crown places, what I was carrying forward was the privilege of the decision that we made collectively together to serve America in the midst of tragedy and heartbreak, to use this opportunity that we had been given to be beacons of hope.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every day of that job, I carried you with me. I carried our class. So it was, for me, the responsibility was to make sure that I did everything in my power as the one who was going forward to represent
Yes.
our class at that time,
Yes.
to honor that privilege and to be a beacon of hope.
You are.
I appreciate
And I think, you know, that this is another fun fact, a little pageant lore here, right? Is that well, you know, all the fun things that you don't know unless you were there, right? Or unless you've the experience. But and I don't know if this is something that they do every year or had done in the past, but our year at Miss America, they brought the crown out. And as we sat in the theater seats during one of our rehearsal breaks, we all had the opportunity to hold the crown. And I know there were a number of us who prayed over the crown and the young woman who would be under it for the job for that year. And so you did carry each of it because each of us had touched it. Each of us had held it in our hands. Each of us had had a moment to go, oh!
That's exactly right. Yes. Well, do you remember that we all signed this big mat that didn't have a picture in it, but was going to go to whoever the winner was, and we all signed it. I even signed it. Like we all signed it because we didn't know who was going to win.
Right.
And that was gifted to me by the hostess committee, the hostesses, months later, months afterwards, and I had completely forgotten that we had done that. And to this day, it's up in my office. And I look at that, and it's very indicative of the fact that this crown truly belongs to all of us.
Oh.
I mean, I was just the steward.
Yeah.
Literally, I was the steward of the crown to carry it around. But there were 51 Miss Americas that year.
Well, and I think that it's
always
really
the case.
Yeah, I think that it's important that you know, a lot of times, you know, people will say, well, did you know it was your year? And I guess what I have always said to that, you know, thinking about, because I've won, you know, more than one state title in that. And so I never knew that it was I never felt like, oh, it's mine this year. I never felt that way. And I don't think that any woman, especially at the level of Miss America, feels like, oh, it's mine. It's mine. I don't, and to be thrust, right, to be like, even thinking about, you know, Madison stepping into the limelight here this year, to be, she's 22 years old, and suddenly, you know, you've been with these women for, you know, 7 to 10 days, and you've seen the level of competition, you've seen the qualities, the character traits, the depth, the level of interest and interesting lives these women live and are living out, and what awaits them once they depart from the Miss America stage. And you just think, I am in a land of giants. I mean, just incredible women, right? I mean, we could have looked around and picked who we thought might be in the top or might be the winner, and maybe we would have included ourselves in that, right? But I know for me it was incredibly humbling. There certainly wasn't a moment where I thought, oh, I've got this, you know. And I know how humble you are. I'm sure that you were not the one thinking, oh, well, in a minute they're going to pick me as the winner. You know, I mean, your face when, and Abby, your first runner up, I mean, a gem of a woman as well.
Totally.
So humble, so humble. I'm sure she was just as astounded as you were to be standing there together as 1 and 2. You know, I've not ever talked with her about that in detail, but I think that you were selected. So instead of thinking like, did you know it was your year? The way that I look at it is somehow the right woman comes to the forefront for that season. And I truly believe, Katie, that with your poise and your speaking ability and your gentle spirit and the way that you are with people, they couldn't have chosen a better woman to wear the crown for us for that year. You just have the right persona. You are the right one in so many ways. And you just continue to do that with the grace that you bring to the story and to your story and the way that you share that with all of us. And now and so again, I don't want to go too long. I know I've abused your time here for an hour and a half.
I'm not watching the Super Bowl. I got my Valentine's colors on. This is not for Taylor's boyfriend. This is for you.
Thank you. Thank you. But I do want to just bring that back around to the fact that you do have an incredible story to tell. And after watching something, like some of the A&E documentaries, we hear bits and pieces, but this coming Saturday, we get to hear it from you personally. We get to hear it set to a background of songs that you have curated, especially for what your heart's journey has been as a Miss America. And so I'm so excited to come and see you perform this. Thank you for taking the time today to share with me about what I can expect to see. I want to point people to the Reser, reser.org, to get tickets so that they can come and be in the audience to see you live and in person as well. But if they can't, you do have the album. And so please talk a little bit about how people can access the album.
So the show at the Reser, like we just talked about, is the expanded version. So this is the larger. You're going to get the full story in this one. The album is the live capture from that first debut show at 54 Below in New York City, and there was a beautiful team behind this album. This is the first album that I have presented to the public since, 2014, I think, was the last album that I did, and it was a Valentine's project. And so it's full circle. Yes.
Fun fact: your music can be used on Instagram.
Yes.
Your music,
and with this album, it will be too.
Yes.
So that's part of this particular release, is that there's no physical album. This is getting, I'm trying to stay with the times here. What do the kids have? They don't have CD players. Heck, my parents don't even have a CD player anymore. I don't have a CD player. So I have not produced any physical CDs. This is all download. This is all streaming. But with that too, my team and I created a commemorative booklet. And this booklet has a download code with it. So if you're attending the show in person on Saturday, snag one of these commemorative booklets, because they tell a little bit about that first show in New York City. We've got some great pictures for that, but they also have these candid behind the scenes shots from my year as Miss America. And it goes into just a little bit more detail about the impetus for the show. And there's a beautiful written statement by my co-producer, and it also outlines all the people that were involved in this particular project. So that is also going to be available for purchase. The digital booklet of this commemorative, there's only a certain amount printed, and they're all autographed. So I've autographed all of the printed ones. Whoa, that was a lot, we get used to it. But
like the old days.
Back in the days, bringing it back, I know. My kids now, it's just a permission slip, or one child. The other one off in college, he's on his own. He signs his own permission slip.
You just signed.
But Victoria, I got to sign hers. And it's not, Mom, I need your autograph. It's Mom, I need you to let me go on this trip. But those are all signed. But the commemorative digital book is available with these downloads. And I'm thrilled at how this project turned out, because it feels very authentic.
Yes.
In this process, I've gotten to know me. And that's what you can hope for through this experience. And we all know as title holders that you do lose a little bit of your identity as a title holder. That's the sacrifice. And anyone who complains about that, you just kind of have to know going into this position, you're going to sacrifice a little bit of your identity for this year.
Thank you for saying.
And
I think I want to
forever.
highlight that. And maybe forever. I do want to highlight that, because I do think that sometimes women who get involved in the program don't understand that you are to some degree selling a part of yourself to the organization to use your name and your likeness when you put your name on that contract.
For better, for
For
worse.
better or for
And I talk
worse.
about, having my name on a contract and
Mhm.
the implications of that. I talk about that candidly. And what, in the process of finding myself, it meant that I could better appreciate all of the different facets of being both beholden to the crown,
Yeah.
as well as how God made me to be
Yes.
as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as a friend, as an advocate.
As
I know that
as you know yourself, as Katie,
as a performer,
Yes.
as all these things, and I know my personality type from all these years. I'm an advocate. That's my personality type, and I loved that in this storytelling opportunity through Bring My Crown, I could showcase that and Miss America and have the two not be mutually exclusive. Yeah. That they're intertwined and that that's okay. And I pray that in presenting this to the public, both in this live album and the show as it tours and as we hopefully make it around to the States, that's a whole nother conversation that we can have about the industry and how to do this, because it's an exponential, I call it an exponential surfing lesson. I'm like, what's happening? But I'm praying that people can see through this that their stories are valuable, that all of our stories are valuable, and that all of the pieces and parts of us make up who we are. The bad, the good, the not so great, the hard times, the trauma, obviously, we all are bonded by that, but all of it's valuable.
Yes.
Absolutely all of it is valuable. And to never shy. I don't want anyone to ever shy from sharing their experience because they feel ashamed or because they feel less than. Imposter syndrome is something that women deal with a lot, especially in this industry. We all do. We've all been there. Every single one of us. And it's a constant battle. It really is. But it's something really interesting happens. And this is what we offer through Virtuosa Society, is that when we share our stories as women with other women, there is this light bulb that goes off, because in hearing her story, which I love that component of Miss America, but in hearing her story, all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute, there's an aspect in her story that I also feel as well. But also you gain a deeper appreciation for the experience of womanhood in general. And that is where collective uplift happens. We're better equipped to support one another and ourselves when we can see someone else's experience and they can see ours. That's how society gets better. So that's my prayer in this. And I appreciate you, Breann, having this conversation and coming to the show. And we're going to have so much fun this weekend, but thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking me through it. And I will have links for anybody who's interested, obviously, following this post so that they can get their tickets or get the album when it releases. It's releasing next Saturday as well, in conjunction with the live show.
That's right.
And then I'm excited. I didn't realize that you actually had kind of in the hopper the possibility of taking this on the road. Yes. So I'm so excited for people who aren't local to Oregon or New York, that, maybe perhaps the Midwest will get an opportunity to have our Miss America 2002 come and tell her story live and in person.
That's why it's so important to share, because as we know, self-promotion gets a bad rap as among women. Yeah. What? This is so like patriarchal. I can't even begin with this. It just makes me crazy. But it's something that everyone's got to know when you're in a creative industry like this, is that the more people that come to the show, the more people want to see it again. This is all part of this process of bringing it to more cities, means that I want people to experience this. I want them to love it. And that helps me to be able to bring this show to more cities. And
Mhm.
it builds our team. It's just there's a whole mountain of people behind making a show like this possible.
Yes.
My band is entirely from New York, and I am so grateful. Shelby, my drummer, Lauren, bass player, who is a nursing mom, by the way, her 6-month old. So that's why we're like, we need an intermission so that she can nurse. So I love that aspect. And then Matthew, our music director, is just fantastic. And that team and our collective producing team as well. I mean, we're all working to bring this show to venues throughout the US that are a little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
That where are pockets of people who are Miss America curious and those who are like just total wholeheartedly invested
Sold
in
out
this.
on Miss America. Yes, indeed.
Yes. So, but my hope is that that spurs on more conversation about the Miss America opportunity. And that's the at the end of the day. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be great. Yes, and absolutely, and it should, and you're still advocating on behalf of the old girl. We just keep putting her up there, bringing change, right? Keeping her relevant.
Old girl.
That old girl. I love to call her
it.
an old girl.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna totally start using that. I love it. I'm gonna credit you for it.
I mean, she's 102. You know, she does have a legacy. And while, you know, she's got some dirt on her crown and, you know, that she still looks good. I mean, we just
have scars. Yeah, we all have scars. But the point is we can't cover them up.
No.
Stop covering up your scars.
Yes.
They're all beautiful
Yes.
because they mean that you've lived life. Now, I do have one last question for you, Breann.
Oh.
Where is your swimsuit?
Okay, so I have a fun fact for you. So, and again, this goes to, you know, some of the struggles that we face, right, as title holders. So the majority of the wardrobe that I brought to the Miss America competition was purchased for me by my local pageant. My local pageant had a $3,000 wardrobe budget for me the year that I won Miss Pierce County.
Wondered if you were a Pierce County girl. That's right. Samel. Samel found you, right? Or she was Miss Washington, but she was also Pierce County.
Yes. My dear sister, we still sit next to each other at Bible study on a weekly basis.
Oh, you better give her a hug from me. I will. Love that.
So she, my Pierce County wardrobe was beautiful, right? And when I went to LA to go shopping, we just didn't have the resources in the state of Washington at that time to be able to afford much. And so I picked up a couple of things, but not really a lot. And my director, the director of the state pageant at the time, was comfortable with me bringing some of my things from that I had worn on the Miss Washington stage and wearing them at Miss America, and they were beautiful. And so I was thrilled to wear them. So my interview suit, my swimsuit, and my evening gown on the Miss America stage were all from my local organization. They purchased those, and I wore them at state, and I wore them again at Miss America. And so, you know, not all of us, you know, spent a fortune to go to Miss America, and I love that about the Miss America opportunity. Yes. We don't have to. And in order to go and have just an incredible growth experience. And so what I will say is that you asked where my swimsuit is.
Yes.
Just like you said, you borrowed a swimsuit, right? So a lot of our organizations will reuse wardrobe. And so my swimsuit that I wore, that I won Miss Washington in, and that I went to compete at Miss America in, went back into the Miss Pierce County closet for future local women.
For more ladies to wear
access, right, to be able to utilize. So that's another thing that I just love about the program, is that a lot of people think that, well, I can't access this experience or this opportunity because I don't have the resources to be able to purchase wardrobe. And just like, you know, sports organizations will scholarship kids into sports opportunities, they have gear that's been gently used, you know, all of that. The pageant system has the same thing. We have ways for women to access the opportunity. There's gently used items. There are women who've competed before who will sell their pageant closet for a song simply to help out another young woman. And so there are ways to be able to access participation, even if you're not made of money. And my state organization was financially struggling, and there just wasn't a lot of money to throw at wardrobe. So the one thing that we broke the bank on was my talent costume. And you talk about
money well spent.
About padding, sister. I mean, I couldn't believe it, but we had that one custom made in California, and I loved it. I loved it.
Did you get to keep it?
I did not get. I did not get to keep it, but I did keep the bra that went under it, because man, that thing was.
And that's a practical thing to keep. Did you ever bring it back out again? Did you ever wear it again?
Of course. Anytime. I mean, I was more slender then than I am now. I've got plenty going on upstairs. But back in the day, you know, when we were dieted down and svelte and at our peak of our fitness capabilities, you know, I needed a little extra. You know, I had one of my favorite pageant mentors said to me one time, "Girl, women's clothes are built for women with boobs, and you don't have any, so we're gonna give you some."
I feel like that was like the prevailing wisdom across the state lines too. That was what was.
We're gonna build you.
We were in really what's the word for it? Branded with that.
Yes, you need our chicken cutlets that we would tuck in our all the stuff. These
were pre-Spanx days too, because I remember we had to cut off a pair of hose that I wore underneath my evening gown because the jersey needed to lay in such a way. And so it was just control top pantyhose that we cut the feet off of that I wore. And then lo and behold, you know, Sarah Blakely comes out with Spanx, and I was like, Sarah, we've been doing this for years in pageant.
I can finally retire these old cut-off hose. Yes.
Amazing. Yes, I was very happy about that. And they were way better, by the way. The Spanx were way better.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And we've got so many options these days, right?
That's the truth. I know.
Well, thank you for asking about my swimsuit.
Well, I do think that at some point, like if we wanted a really great photo opportunity, that we all bring them out, and somehow there's like, girls, we don't hide from the fact that we get this privilege of aging. Now we have one of the members of our sisterhood who's no longer with us, and you know, that was so that was a heartbreaking blow to our sisterhood to lose Ashley. And so I feel like in embracing this privilege of aging, we're doing that for Ashley.
Yeah. Oh, Katie, I love that. Thank you for saying that. That's precious. That's precious.
We love our class. Gosh, we've got just an amazing class. And we were so lucky.
What an experience to bond us all together, right? I mean, truly something very traumatic that we just, you know, everybody remembers where they were on 9/11. And for us, we were together on 9/11. Yeah. Away from everything that we knew and everything that was familiar. So
beyond the privilege of being our state title holder and Miss America, that is the privilege that I hold most dear.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my sister, it's always so good to see your beautiful face. I can't wait to see it in person.
Oh, I can't wait to hug you. And I think Darla Harman was telling me before I jumped on this live with you. She's like, I got to talk to Breann. There's things I've got to tell her about pageant.
Okay.
So if Darla's still listening, she's going to catch you on Saturday and tell you all sorts of wonderful things too.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Well, I'll take her somewhere quiet in a corner where her lovely Italian voice won't carry so far.
There you go.
Tell me secrets.
Word to the wise.
I can't wait to hug Mama Darla. That'll be fabulous. So my friend, I just again want to say thank you It is so good to see your face. And the next time we do something like this, I don't know what the questions will be, but I know we have a million things that we could talk about. So I pray that we get to do it again.
Do it. Let's do it again.
Anything that you are a part of, maybe we should talk about Virtuosa Society the next time I get together with you, because I would like to know more about it. And I know that there are a lot of other people who would like to know more about it. And especially since you've got this podcast coming, where you've interviewed our sister Miss America contestants.
Oh, yes.
I think that maybe wrapping something around that for a conversation might be a great thing as well.
I would love that. Right now, season 1 is up to episode 7. So if you want to check out the Virtuosa Society podcast, where I reveal the hidden stories of female creatives throughout history. So I dive into these mysteries, and it's so fun telling these mysteries. So I'm up to episode 7, and episode 10 will be the story of our collective vote. And so that is coming at the tail end of season 1, and you can look for that in the summertime.
Okay.
So that in the summertime.
Okay. Now, before we hop off, I have to do a special shout out, because we talked so much about the shopping trip that got us introduced the first time. And I just saw Connie Oliver just jumped on.
Was there. Connie Oliver. There she
Connie
is.
chauffeured us all over California.
Connie,
check
do
out.
you remember this?
And
was there with us at Tadashi when we were getting our Tadashi.
Yes, when we went to Tadashi. Yes, I mean, she took the whole trip. She chauffeured us. She let us shop at her store. She used to have a retail, beautiful retail boutique called Ames. Oh, loved it. I shopped there more than one time for pageant stuff.
Oh, and
just, Connie, we love you. We're just so grateful. It's your fault that Katie and I are still dear friends.
We love you, Connie.
So I know that Connie may not have gotten to see all of this, and folks may want to see all of it if they jumped off at some point, but because we have been talking for a minute, so I'm going to put this over on my YouTube channel as well. So, and I'll make sure that you get a link. So if there's anybody that you want to share it with that say, I didn't know this was happening, that you can have the freedom to be able to let them know. I love the way the sun is coming in on your beautiful face.
It's just like coming through. I'm in the piano room right now, and it's like, whoa, there's the light.
So I'm going to blow you kisses and tell you to break a leg and all of those things. And I can't wait to see you next Saturday when you perform live at the Reeser Center for the Performing Arts at 7:30 p.m. Your one-woman show, Bring My Crown. We get to hear all about your Miss America story and life post Miss America as well. And I'm so excited and delighted that I get to be there in person. Thank you again, Katie.
So much,
Love
Breann.
you.
My love to you. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.